detailed as I can, but I don't get bogged down in it, and I don't stop if I can't figure something out. If I get to a part of the outline where I'm like, oh geez, how's he going to get out of this? Or I don't quite have this figured out. I spend not zero time. I spend a couple of seconds on it, and then boom, it's off. Because I know over the next year, I'll be able to figure it out. Because like on the battlefield, I was aggressively solving problems. I was capitalizing on momentum. The enemy's adapting to you. You're adapting to them. And you know what? I can do that on the written page now. But you know what? I can sleep on it. And if I mess something up, I can come back the next day and I can change it and I can edit it. So I don't let it stop me. I just go through it, around it, over it, and then I keep going. And then I get that to where I feel good. And there's no real way to know exactly what stage that is. It's not like a word count or anything like that. It's just, okay, I have this outline. I know how this is going to end. I know some things here in the middle. I know these different parts. Got it. I know what I need to do. And then that's the guide. And then I have the list of characters more so that I can see spellings and I have their position. I don't have personalities though, and I already know the personalities if they're a recurring character. But if they're new characters, I have a name and a position, like so-and-so president of the United States, so-and-so director of the CIA, whatever that is. But not the personality attached to them. So I find out about the personalities, and it's not in the outline either at all. But when I start writing them and they start having conversations with one another, that's where I really get to know the characters, and that's where they really develop as I move the story forward. So that's how it's been for all of them thus far, and it seems to be a good way for me to do it. It's not not the only way. It's just the way that works for me. But everybody's going to have a different way of doing it. Some people don't know the ending when they start their books; they just go. The pantsers, they're called, sit right by the seat of your pants, I'm told. So I guess I'm a combination of both. Like, it's not uber detailed where all I'm doing is just kind of making the sentences now kind of link from that outline to turn it into a narrative. But it's enough of a guide where I feel good about not having to worry about where it's going as I write, if that makes sense.
It does. James Reese, unless he sells his soul to the devil and becomes immortal, can't live forever. But like in book 9, are you going to have him like move to Margaritaville and retire? Are you like working on a whole new series when you come to a natural end to the Reese segment? What's ahead for you as a writer?
Yeah, so I don't have that part figured out. I have all these different ideas. Like when I first started, I had 6, 7, 8 different ideas written down as those one-page executive summaries. And the one I wanted to start with was Savage Son, was the third one. And that's because I wanted to write a thriller that paid tribute to The Most Dangerous Game, which is a short story by Richard Connell written in 1924. And I wanted to do that since I first read it when I was 11. So in 6th grade, I knew that one day I would write this story. And that's the one I wanted to start with. But I knew the characters weren't developed to a point where I could explore the themes of Savage Son, which are really explores the dark side of man through the dynamic of hunter and hunted. I needed to get the characters to a place where I could then explore those themes in that novel. So it was very evident when I was looking at all those different ideas that the Terminal List was the one to start with, primal, hard-hitting, visceral right out of the gate. And then after that one, it was important to take that character on a journey of redemption. He needed to learn to live again. He needed to find that next mission in life, transition. And like we all do, whether it's changing jobs or divorce or death of a loved one or whatever it is, you need a lot of people. Well, we all are going to make these different transitions in life as we move forward. So the character needed to do that as well. And I started that one out a lot different than most of the other books, but I felt like I needed to. It would be disingenuous just to have ended the book, the first one, that was just so impactful to him and such a traumatic for this character, and then all of a sudden he's okay and he's off. So I had to take him on this journey, and I had to take the readers on that journey with him, so he could learn to live again. But each one's had these different different themes, and I think I'll just keep writing as long as people want to keep reading and want to keep going on that journey with James Reese. Then he's going to continue to develop, hopefully, like we all are on these journeys, and I'll just keep doing that. I don't know if I'm going to age him in real time, because like Gabriel Allon is aged in real time for Daniel Silva. Bob Lee Swagger has with Stephen Hunter. I think like Scott Harvath and Mitch Rapp have aged slowly, and I think I might go that route and just ask readers to you have to suspend a little bit of disbelief if you were to go back and actually plot out timeline what's been going on in real world and as these things have gone on, how old the character is. So I think I might go that route, but I'm still in that phase where I don't quite have to make the decision yet.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this question because I want to make sure I ask it the right way, but I'm curious to know the first time you pitched a book to a publisher, did you literally say, now I know what I'm going to do on book 3, but I want you to talk about book 1? I mean, has a publisher ever gone, I've never seen a guy that worked backwards from the middle to the beginning.
Interesting. No, I don't think I ever told them that. No, I was just so happy that they were interested in it. The only person I ever wanted to publish this was Emily Bessler. And that's because in the acknowledgement section of Vince Flynn's novels and Brad Thor's novels, and then Kyle Mills, obviously later, was this name, Emily Bessler. And so I knew exactly whose desk I wanted this to wind up on. And luckily Brad Thor cracked that door for me. And I'll never be able to thank him enough for that. So I ended up on her desk, and she loved it. And then flew out to New York. We sat down, had a couple hour coffee, and here we are today.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to check my notes real quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. Because you and I, when we talk, I just have the best time.
Oh, so awesome! Yeah, I can't wait till we get back out there in person. Oh my gosh, it's so fun being in Savannah.
Since you mentioned it, you were here in Savannah a couple years ago. We've been talking about favorite foods and whatever, but just give me an overview of what your feelings about the city of Savannah were when you were here. And since it's been a couple years, do you fondly remember Savannah?
I certainly do. And I did the thing where you come a day early and then you go off and talk at a school. And that was so cool to be able to do that. So if any author is listening and gets that opportunity, I highly recommend doing that. That was really cool to do. So did that. And then I found that place that we can't remember the exact name of. Where
You said it, not me.
I spent most of my time. It was a restaurant/bar. And that was fantastic to go there and take a breath, because I was I was done with book 2-ish. I think I was editing maybe. Anyway, there was always 1,000 things going on. Things are building. And so I was like, it was nice to be able to take a breath, and that place was quiet. They made a great old fashioned in there, a nice steak, a big glass of wine. So it was wonderful to do that. So I have very fond memories of walking around the city, doing that ice cream at Leopold ice cream.
Yes.
Jeez, I knew I'd do it.
That's okay.
And Leopold's versus Leupold scopes, for those that know.
We know what your search engine is now.
That's it. And then the venues for these things were amazing. So I was in a church, and I think it was upstairs in a church, and it was like stained glass windows, and it was just a beautiful place. Of course, the bookstores there were amazing, and it was just so cool to be there and get to wander around the city and buy a bunch of books. My suitcase going home was a lot heavier than the inbound flight, but it was amazing. Had a great time. Can't wait to do it again.
There you go, Erica. He just invited himself back, so we'll invite you too. That'll be great. All right, so we're going to do a couple questions right now. Okay, so this one is really interesting to me. It says, as a former member of the military with classified clearances, do you have to run your books through any government approval channels before they're published?
So I did the first one just to be safe, since I was so close to having been in the military, just to be on the safe side. And they took a lot out, particularly of the second book. They took out things that I made up, completely fictional locations. They took out, real locations, but just fiction in the novel that I had no idea had any sort of relation. I'd never been to while I was in uniform or anything like that. So they took out quite a bit. And then in the second one's interesting because I appealed it, and my lawyers tied each and every redaction to a publicly available government document. So not just something that's already out there from someone else, no, from the actual government itself. The same people that are redacting it. So we did that, and then I won on 37 of the 54 redactions. And so if you get the paperback of True Believer, you can see what they thought was so serious. And then for the third one, I tried to do that again because they redacted some things, and then of course we tied it to my lawyers tied it to publicly available government documents, and then they said, no, we're not going to appeal. Let you appeal. And I was like, well, it says you can appeal right here. It's part of your process. And they also took 7 months to get back, and they're supposed to get back in 30 days. So they're not most people read these books in a couple days, a week. Not big readers over there at the Pentagon, obviously. So this fourth one was so far removed from anything I did in the military, and it was all research online, all that stuff. So I didn't submit this one. So it was just, I'm already so far removed. Nothing's attached to my time in the military. So and it is fiction. So I didn't do this one. But if I ever wrote some nonfiction, then I would submit. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this one says, Jack, and I'm not sure. So I'm just going to read it as is. Okay. It says, Jack, you haven't really dug into that mission Reese was on when his team died. Is this a possible James Reese book coming soon? Love it when he's on a mission, and that mission sounds like a doozy.
Well, are they talking? I wonder if they're talking about the first chapter in the first novel, which is. Yeah. So that was all part of that government conspiracy where these drugs are tested on our nation's most elite soldiers. And that came from the church hearings in the 70s, where a lot of abuses by certain agencies of the federal government came to light. Frank Church of Idaho held those hearings. And part of those, one of the things that came to light was testing drugs on people without them really fully understanding what they were doing. After those hearings, there were a series of steps that were put in place that you had to go through if you're going to test drugs on people. And before that, they were tested on university students, on people in mental health institutions, on prisoners, and people in the military. So that's kind of what spurred that idea. And I thought, well, enough time has passed since the 70s, or maybe somebody didn't get that memo, and we're going to try this again. And then there's some side effects, and they need to cover it up because they know that they broke these rules and they violated the law. So that's the basis of that first novel. And they same thing they're working on out in LA right now as far as filming.
Oh my gosh. How did you choose Ray Porter as your reader? He makes James Reese come to life.
He is so awesome. And I didn't know, because I'm not an audiobook reader or listener. I am a reader and physical books. And so I had no idea that narrators bring people follow a narrator from project to project. And I had no idea. And I think it was the afternoon. I think it's probably January of 2018 or something like that. And Simon & Schuster emailed me and said, hey, what do you think about this guy for your audiobook? And I listened to it and I was like, I don't think so. I'm like, hey, can we choose somebody else? And they're like, yeah, just let us know by the end of the day. And it was, 1 or 2 and Mountain Time. I'm like, oh boy, okay. So I started listening to samples, and I found Ray Porter, and I was like, this sounds like the guy. And then I started listening to more. I started listening to all the samples that I could. I said, wow, this guy's amazing. And I had no idea that he was at the top of his game, at top of the profession. And so I sent that to Simon & Schuster. I said, what do you think about this Ray Porter guy? And they said, well, we can ask him. And they did. And he said, yes. And I'll forever be grateful for him for doing that. Now we're great friends. We went out to New York together, and the first book was up for Audiobook of the Year. So it was up there with Stephen King and Ruth Ware. And it was incredible to see it up there with those books and those authors. And we get to put on the tuxes and hang out together and have a few drinks and get to know each other. And now we're dear friends. So he's just fantastic. Love that guy.
Was he a podcast guest?
He was, yeah. Last week. Yeah. Yeah, last Wednesday, and we had a great conversation. He's now Darkseid in the new Snyder Cut version of Justice League, and just what an incredible guy. He's done so much, and he does. He's a professional, and he brings these stories to life. So just a great guy.
That's cool. I like that they asked you if you liked the guy who was going to read your books, or let you have a choice in that.
Yeah. I don't know if that's normal or not, but very cool. Very cool that they did.
All right. So where are we going to see you this week? Are you going to be on any of the big shows? You going onto the networks? What are you doing?
Let's see. What am I doing this week? So the book launched a week ago, and I was on Joe Rogan out there in Austin, which was great. I did the show in LA when it was in LA, and now it's in Austin. So got to go out there and say hi to Joe and do that, which was fun. And then a lot of, I've been on a steady stream of interviews and podcasts and that sort of thing since, for it seems like a little while now. But David Brown at Simon & Schuster is just so amazing. He's my publicist, and he does all of this stuff, and he's just incredible and such a great guy too. So I'm sure he set all this up.
He did it. He let us know about number 3 on the New York Times bestselling list.
Oh, he did? Oh, that's so cool.
Yes. I love it. It's our
David,
gift.
if you're watching,
All right.
thank you for everything. So cool.
All right, we have another question. It says, while in the military, was there a standout leader who you thought was a very smart guy?
There was, and I weave some of his, some of the things I learned from him into the pages of the novel. And he's still in, actually, he's an admiral now, so I won't, say his name, but at some point I will. But he taught me a lot, and these principles of leadership that he had after he went downrange for the first year right after September 11th, and we really hadn't been in sustained combat operations since the end of Vietnam. We'd had flashpoints at Desert One outside of Tehran, Iran. We had Grenada, we had Panama, we had Mogadishu, we had Desert One, but those were flashpoints. It wasn't sustained combat. And so after September 11th, that was really the first time that we'd been in this new operating environment, up in the mountains at altitude, different than Vietnam, different than where the SEALs in particular operated in Vietnam and the Mekong Delta. So the mountains of Afghanistan up at 8,000 feet, 9,000 feet, 10,000 feet, a little different. So he brought those lessons back to us. And so I weave those into the pages of the novels.
Does he know that? Did you tell him that?
No, I have not told him that because he's still in. I flipped that page on the military. So really, okay. If there's some people that I stayed in direct contact with, and then some people like the guys that I was out on the set with last week, I hadn't seen one of them. I hadn't seen one of the, I hadn't seen a couple of them since I got out, and then a couple of them I see quite a bit or talk to quite a bit. So it's just all, it all depends. Just like you're leaving any job or profession and moving on and changing locations and starting a new life with your family type deal. So that's a good point. I've been keeping him to think about reaching out though. I think I'm gonna wait till he retires though. So
there you go.
Which could be soon.
Copacetic. All right. So I was doing a little reading. Oh, we have another question. I'm going to say this real quick, though. I was doing a little bit of reading, and this Saturday is Independent Bookstore Day. And I know you can get your book on Amazon. I know you can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get your books a lot of places. But in a town like Savannah, we have some really wonderful small bookstores. As an author, what is that like when you go on vacation with your family, maybe to a small town in Utah, or you're just taking a drive, and you see your book in a window of a small store, knowing that town has the opportunity to buy your book on that level? What is that like for you?
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I'd go in anyway, whether it's in the window or not. And my mom always used to take us into bookstores anytime we would travel as a librarian. That was just something that we did. We'd look at the library and we go to the local bookstore. So I found so many authors just, she'd go off and look at her things, and I just start going down up and down the aisles. And that's how I found J.C. Pollock that way with the book Centrifuge. And so I found some great authors just browsing through bookstores. And some of those covers pop out at you. I mean, the cover is important, especially if you're a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old kid, and you see a cool cover. That's like, oh, what is that? And draws you in. So there is something to that. And I have all those books still today. I have all the paperbacks that I read growing up, and the pages are all yellow with age. But then I'm going back now, and I'm trying to find I'm trying to find all of them, but I've found a lot of them thus far. Mystery Mike tracks them down for me and finds first edition signed of all those books that I read growing up. So I'm working on the collection. But yeah, I love going into independent bookstores. I love supporting independent bookstores. I have these things right here. I did it last year during COVID because everything shut down when the last book launched, when Savage Son launched. And it was kind of like the height of the uncertainty when you didn't know if you're going to have a job. We didn't know if the grocery stores were going to have food. Of course, everyone remembers the great run on toilet paper that was in the news every night. And people didn't know the health of themselves, their kids, their loved ones. Schools are shutting down. And that's when the book launched. And that meant that independent bookstores were shutting down as well. Didn't have the foot traffic. So I created these. This is one for this book, but I had made one for Savage Son that I sent out to independent bookstores to try to encourage people to take the extra effort that it took to contact independent bookstores instead of hitting Amazon and trying to give them some incentive to do so other than, hey, support independent bookstores. It's like, hey, the only place you can get these limited edition signed book plates are from these independent bookstores. So I did it again this time with these, and then I had another one that sold out immediately. So just try to help independent bookstores as much as I possibly can, because I have such great memories, and a lot of them are the cornerstones of their communities. And I'm just a huge fan. As soon as when we walk by one and we're on, checking out a new town or something, my wife's like, "Oh, here he goes," and then I go check out. And I always try to buy a few things just to support and all that we then have to lug around the rest of the day. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Are your kids big readers?
This is the worst. So I read to them. From the day they got home from the hospital, like every single night that I was home. And then they got to that age where that got to be like, "Hey, Dad, you don't need to read to us every night." And then no, it didn't take with these kids. There's so many distractions, and it drives me absolutely bonkers, because I was such a big reader growing up, and it gave me such a great foundation, not just for writing, but for my time in the SEAL teams and being able to have studied warfare and terrorism and insurgencies and counterinsurgencies, not just like, "Oh, I'm going to the military, I better start learning about these things." No, I had a lifetime of learning about these things, and then I had a lifetime of reading, and it just kills. So I think that this next generation, I think they might be more audiobook. If I'm looking at my kids and their friends, and they're all communicating on these devices, particularly during COVID when they were all locked down, especially last fall, that I think they might be, and I think it's the fastest growing segment of publishing, I think, but I think that might be how they get introduced to reading, is through audiobooks. And then hopefully they take that next step to then get the physical book, and then to turn off everything. Maybe they hit this point of saturation where there's just too much happening, especially once we can't control it as parents. I mean, not that we're the best at controlling it now, but control it as much as we can. But eventually when they start making their own decisions and move on, I think they're going to get to this point where they're like, "Okay, this is too much," and put these things down. And you know what I'm going to do? I listen to these audiobooks that were kind of fun. I'm going to go pick up the physical book and sit down with that for a while and just escape. So I'm thinking I may just be being hopeful, but I'm thinking that's how it's going to work anyway. I don't see how you can go through an entire life of just all this input all the time, constantly, without sitting down with a great book and escaping into those pages.
You can tell a lover of reading a physical book because they'll open the book and they'll smell it. I just love that. Like when you're there. So, all right, got another question.
Yes.
You're going to love this one. This person wants to know, what is the significance of that giant meat cleaver on your wall?
So there's a couple of them actually over there, and they are from the 1800s, and they're from Pennsylvania, and they are from the golden age of U.S. steel. So none of those companies exist anymore, but they're from a time when we made steel here of such high quality, and they're refurbished by a company called New West Knife Works out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And so they take that, they look for these old cleavers and old blades places, and each of these goes back to the 1800s, and they're stamped with the company that made them, and you can kind of look at and find out that history and all that. And I've actually used them, so I do use them on this thing's called a hog splitter, but I just had to use it on a turkey and I don't know how I survived so long without a cleaver. They're so awesome. But so those are just little piece of American history as far as steel in Pennsylvania goes.
I love that. Are the hatchets from those people too in the back behind you?
No, so that's actually made from bullets right there. And these are the tomahawks from the books. So those are just and I use that as a tool to develop the character, because it's such a traditional, I wouldn't really call it ancient weapon, but it's certainly an old weapon, a traditional weapon. And it kind of harkens back to that lineage, that warrior lineage that James Reese has. So it's not just all modern, he has this tie to the past, and that's really what the tomahawk signifies.
Okay. Somebody put a comment over here that said your book plates that you showed just a second ago are at 2 local bookstores, E. Shaver Bookseller and Ex Libris. So I just think that's such a wonderful idea that you as an author, you didn't do that so maybe they'll go buy my book. It was support local business. And I just find that wonderful. So you just took another step up on my Jack Carr hero list. So
awesome. They're kind of fun to design too. This is a specific Kalashnikov that is in the novel, and for people that know what they're looking at, it's only made in one country on Earth, and it's very close to being one made in Yugoslavia, but it's not. So it's not just like I just picked some random image. It means something. So anyway, that's the one for this book.
Jack Carr, I could talk to you forever, but our time is almost coming to an end. So is there anything you would like us to know about the latest book, The Devil's Hand, that we haven't discussed? Just go get it and read it, right?
Ooh, let's see. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously great. Tell a friend, obviously, is the most is so appreciated. And for people that want to go a little deeper into some of the gear used in the novels, or want to know a little bit more about the series being filmed in LA, there's the blog on my website is a good place to do that. There's a newsletter there you can sign up for. Every month I highlight 6 books. This last month I did a lot more than 6 because I highlighted the books that I use for research for The Devil's Hand. But typically I highlight 6 books from my reading list every month and talk about where I was when I read them, how they influenced me either as an author or a combat leader. So that'll be on there too for people that are interested in reading suggestions. And then I'm at Jack Carr USA on the social channels, most active on Instagram because 3 was just like too many. That I think Facebook does repost from my Instagram, but I'm on Twitter as well. But I'd say that Instagram is my where I'm most active.
And what's your website again?
It's officialjackcarr.com.
All right.
So, come say hello.
Podcast, blog, everything. All right. Jack Carr, on behalf of the Savannah Book Festival, thank you for taking time to talk about your life and your work. We look forward to a time when we can all be together again. I'd like to say thank you to the festival folks for giving me another honor of being your moderator tonight. The next virtual event is Saturday, May 8th with Ruth Ware. We were talking about her just a little time ago. She'll be streaming from the UK. Be sure to check the event page on savannahbookfestival.org, not .com, .org for details. Keep checking back author for future author events, which I hope to be a moderator maybe in the future. The festival is a nonprofit, so please give generously to ensure it can go on for years and years, and you can make a donation on the website. So thanks, everybody. And Jack, have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Bye.